the BJP says, look at what our government has done 1 year before the elections and compare that to what the UPA did. Closer to the elections, UPA was spending money in the hope that money being given to voters would help the UPA come back to power. That didn't work. Sudhanshuji's party is looking at the long game, trying to spend on public infrastructure in a bid to ensure that you build the assets that can build the new India, because as you well know, the highest multiplier for money spent is on infrastructure. So yours was short-sighted politics in the budget. Theirs is a longer game which is laying the foundations of building a new India. Let's start from there.
We've seen the build-up of New India since 2014. It's been 9 years now. We are still waiting for those fruits to emerge for every section of this society. But before I go any further and answer questions on their frugal or not so frugal spending, let me ask two things to my esteemed co-panelist. Every budget text is presented in some context. This is one budget which is absolutely out of context. What are the 3 or 4 big things that Indian economy and we, the people at large, face today? Unemployment, price rise, income inequality, and lower wages. The budget doesn't seem to talk about any of that. The budget has not moved the needle on consumption. The budget has not moved the needle on jobs. The budget certainly has not moved the needle on poverty. And please explain to me, whatever they're spending may be frugal or prudent or imprudent otherwise, how is this government planning to lay the foundation of a new India while actually cutting the spending on education, on health, on agriculture, on rural and on urban development, and on flagship women's schemes, and on social empowerment? And I speak with numbers. I am also telling you that this budget had allocated, the budget this year had allocated a certain sum for all of these things, spent much less, and this year as a percentage of the GDP, those numbers have gone down further. I mean, what is this doublespeak all about?
Sudhanshuji, John Drez has a piece out which says, adjusted for inflation, actual spends on key social sector schemes is actually down in comparison to 2013-2014, which were the last years of the Manmohan government. The charge against you is, while you're spending on public infrastructure, when it comes to the social sector, whether it is on Manrega, whether it is on some of the social sector schemes to do with education and health, the spends are flat or tending downwards, which if you adjust for inflation are actually much lower than earlier. Sonia Gandhi, in fact, the chairperson of the UPA, has written an editorial this morning where she's accusing your government of being anti-poor and pro the rich capitalists.
Since you have given the reference of the last budget of UPA government 2013-14, I would just like to put forth 2 facts. Number 1, they have given a loan waiver to the farmers in 2013, just in run-up to the 2014 election, 60,000 crore rupees, but they have not mentioned in their budget. They have shifted it to the next year. If somebody is having doubt, they can go through the speech of Sri Arun Jaitley ji in 2014 budget and you will get a clear thing. Another thing, that they have taken so many oil bonds which were not liable to be paid in that year. This liability will be in 2026. So just 2 points which can give you a fictitious good picture. Despite that, the rate of growth was lower than the rate of inflation at the time. Now coming to our side, right from 2014 onwards, if somebody is unable to see, we were the 10th largest economy, now we are the 5th largest economy. We have become the 3rd biggest producer of automobile. We have become the 2nd biggest producer of the mobile handset. Previously we were the 2nd biggest consumer but not the 2nd biggest producer. We are having the national highways developed at the pace of 38 kilometers per year. And for the first time we are having a defense production. Prior to that there was no production of the light machine guns. Now we have get an aircraft carrier ship. All those things have happened, but to visualize this, you should have a wise vision, which I think is lacking on the part of the Congress party.
Can I make a small intervention?
Very quickly, yes.
The smallest intervention that I would want to make on this is, do not compare 2013-14 budget. Compare last budget of this government, 2023 fiscal year versus 24 fiscal year. Spending on education was 2.64% of the GDP, down to 2.5. Spending on health was 2.2% of the GDP, down to 1.9. Spending on agriculture was 3.8% of the GDP, down to 3.2. Rural development 5.8 to 5.29, and it's a similar picture for urban. My problem with the government and the defendants of this budget is, you should never talk about oil bonds, because all that you have paid is 3.5% of the 28 lakh crore that you fleeced from the people of this country. For the last 6 months, crude oil prices are down $36 a barrel. Have petrol and diesel prices gone down in this country? You have cut subsidy for fertilizer and for food and for agriculture. What are we even talking about? I mean, you really are talking about an India that doesn't seem to exist for the common man. Even your tax proposal is so anti-common man and so anti-saving that nobody has been put their right minds together and